San Diego Global Knowledge University.
Hello, how are you? Welcome to another class from San Diego Global Knowledge University. In this session, we will cover a key topic for modern management: the learning organization, from knowledge to strategy. In a changing environment, learning faster than the environment is no longer a luxury. It's a condition for survival. That's why learning isn't just another course. It's the engine that connects motivation, innovation, and results. From Weber, Taylor, and Fayol, with their bureaucratic and scientific foundations, to systems and contingency approaches, management has evolved. Today, we need learning organizations, as proposed by Peter Senge, supported by 5 disciplines: personal mastery, mental models, shared vision, team learning, systems thinking. Throughout the class, we will see what these mean in practice, how they connect with strategy and tactics, and why information flow, openness to external ideas, and customer orientation are defining traits of a learning organization. Keep this guiding question in mind: what are we doing to make learning a daily part of our decisions rather than just an occasional event? All right, let's begin. The most important resource of any organization is human resources. One of the factors that creates motivation and dynamism in the workforce is learning. In fact, learning is a key to success in the development and survival of learning organizations. The growth and prosperity of organizations has drawn the attention of business leaders, and the false belief that organizations are made up of irrelevant forces is, in reality, mistaken. Understanding and valuing learning is fundamental. Organizations in which people continually expand their capacity to create the results they truly desire, where new and expansive patterns of thinking are nurtured, where collective aspiration is set free, and where people continually learn to see the whole together, those are the ones that survive. Organizational management theories date back to the early 20th century, when Weber proposed bureaucratic theory, and Taylor and Fayol presented the principles of scientific and administrative management. Later, in the 1930s, the human relations movement emerged. The latest school formed with systems theories and contingency theory. Today, this school is the dominant way of thinking in management and organization. Alvani, Syed Mahdi, 1385. In general, the learning organization is a response to insecure and variable environmental conditions. In the future, only those organizations that are able to adapt and draw on the capabilities, commitments, and individual learning at all levels, and those that learn faster than their competitors, will survive. Ultimately, reaching a learning organization is possible because we are all learners and eager to learn. Senge, 2011. Today, the value and standing of organizations are distinguished by their knowledge and learning capabilities. Redding, 1383. The idea of the learning organization is a newer management theory presented by Peter Senge, professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, USA, with the publication of his book, The Fifth Discipline, in 1990. This work was expanded with the publication of a complementary book in 1997. Organizational learning is a process through which inputs are acquired, preserved, and used to carry out improvements in the organization. This leads to an increase in the capacity for continuous self-learning and modernization within the organization. Malika, K. 2004. Argyris also holds that organizational learning can spread within groups that meet 3 conditions: having new ideas, questioning the organization's existing knowledge and activities, developing and transferring knowledge among organizational staff. Armstrong and Foley point out that organizational learning refers to the organization's capacity to obtain or create the knowledge necessary in order to survive or compete in the environment. Dubis considers a learning organization to be one that is logically resilient, flexible, and adaptable to change, and that uses the potential of all its members to learn at every level. Estelle and Gibbons maintain that a learning organization constantly expands its potential to create the future. Change and innovation occur through continual learning and become effective action. Senge identifies 5 disciplines of the learning organization: personal mastery, mental models, building shared vision, team learning, systems thinking. These disciplines converge to transform learning organizations into innovations. Disciplines of the learning organization. Personal mastery, a process in which the individual constantly improves their viewpoints, concentrates their energies and abilities, expands their patience, and ultimately understands reality without prejudice. Mental models, attitudes that reflect how we interpret the external world and how this influences our decisions. Shared vision. Objectives that inspire the organization, creating a picture of the desired future. Team learning. Considered by Seng as the key unit of learning, where the group develops its capacity to obtain collectively desired results. Systems thinking, the basis of the other disciplines. It allows us to understand change and the interconnection of phenomena, learning that problems arise within the system itself. According to Moilanen, the main purposes of a learning organization are creating better performance, developing quality, fostering competitive commitment, empowering the workforce, linking work and creativity, generating innovation and creativity, managing change, improving decision-making, responding more quickly to a dynamic environment, increasing compatibility and efficiency in the face of environmental changes, and recognizing internal interdependencies. Characteristics of the learning organization. A smooth flow of information that improves knowledge management and the development of human capital, the entry of external ideas and the internal freedom to develop them, the ability to resolve conflicts between fixed organizational programs and environmental changes, sensitivity to address unknown problems by seeking innovative solutions, anticipation of future problems through constant learning, valuing innovation, creativity, and calculated risk-taking, a focus on customer satisfaction, internal and external. According to Marquardt, 2006, there are 3 types of organizational learning. Adaptive learning, learning from past experiences and performance evaluation, single loop or double loop. Proactive learning, dynamic and creative learning that starts from future visions to guide action. Action learning, the search for present reality and the use of knowledge to develop individuals, teams, and organizations. Knowledge and learning are essential and unavoidable factors for organizational survival. Organizations reflect the way their members think and act. Therefore, if we want an organization to change, we must give individuals time to transform their thoughts and actions. This change cannot be achieved solely through intensive training courses or a management model based on orders and control. Organizational learning requires new ideas, methods, and management tools. Providing opportunities to undertake new tasks allows members to develop a stable capacity for change. Organizational learning has become increasingly important in organizations interested in competitive advantage, innovation, and efficiency. Traditionally, learning has been defined as the process through which individuals acquire new knowledge and insights as a result of changing their behavior and actions. A learning organization is one that is consciously managed toward learning, integrating it into its values, visions, objectives, evaluations, and daily operations. Learning is a process that encompasses 4 main mechanisms: creating a learning environment, identifying development and learning needs, implementing those needs, applying learning in the workplace. Focusing on learning implies driving large-scale change in individuals, teams, and organizations. Since environmental change is constant, the only way to survive and thrive is for organizations to learn faster than the environment around them. The origins and evolution of strategic planning begin with the fact that strategic planning is not a new topic. Since ancient times, it has been applied to achieve different objectives, mainly the conquest of territories. In the 20th century, it was given a new conception, always seeking to plan future actions and reach desired outcomes. Sun Tzu, the oldest of modern strategists, 4th century BC, who has influenced global military thought for 25 centuries, did not use the term strategic planning. He spoke of offensive strategy. In Chapter 8, The 9 Variables of the Art of War, he writes, "The general must be sure he can exploit the situation to his advantage as circumstances require without applying predetermined procedures." When Hannibal planned to conquer Rome, he began by defining his kingdom's mission, then formulated strategies, analyzed environmental factors, and compared and combined them with his own resources to determine tactics, projects, and steps to follow. This represents the strategic planning process used today in any company. By Daba, in his Arab-Hindu text, Kalila and Dimna, Antonio Chalita Sfer's version, wrote that a ruler's attention should focus on 3 things: carefully analyze past events and the reasons for failure, weighing the benefits and harms they brought. Carefully study the present situation, its pros and cons, exploiting good opportunities as far as possible and avoiding whatever could cause losses and failures. Study the future and the successes or failures it may hold, preparing well to seize opportunities and staying alert to what is feared. Later, Niccolò Machiavelli in The Prince also explains the need for planning to achieve good government. Although there are many examples throughout history, these precedents are representative of how strategic thinking developed. In the modern era, at the end of World War II, companies began to realize there were aspects they could not control: uncertainty, risk, instability, and a changing environment. The need arose to have some control over rapid change. As a response, managers began to use strategic planning. Strategic planning and its set of concepts and tools did not emerge until the early 1960s. Previously, management did fairly well with operational planning because with continuous growth in total demand, it was hard to ruin business even with poor management. For other authors, strategic planning as a management system formally emerged in the 1970s as a natural result of the evolution of the planning concept. For example, Frederick W. Taylor thought that the essential role of management required planning the tasks employees would perform, and the manager decided what, how, and when workers would execute those tasks. This triggered a structural shift toward the multi-divisional form. R&D became more important. The time between investing in an asset and bringing it to market shortened, and product lifecycle shrank. Process speed increased due to intensified competition. In contemporary times, Igor Ansoff identifies the emergence of strategic planning in the 1960s and associates it with changes in the strategic drives and capabilities of entrepreneurs of that era. In the 1960s, the term long-range planning began to be used, and subsequently, the terms strategic planning, strategy planning, and strategic plan were introduced, often as synonyms. Then, the turbulent 1970s erupted, with a succession of crises. Oil prices soared due to the Middle East War. Material and energy shortages came along with double-digit inflation, followed by economic stagnation and rising unemployment. Low-cost, high-quality goods from Japan and elsewhere began to flood the United States, seizing market share in strong industries such as steel, automobiles, motorcycles, watches, and cameras. Later, some companies also faced a growing wave of irregularities in key industries such as energy, telecommunications, health, law, and accounting. Firms that had operated under old rules now faced intense domestic and foreign competition that challenged their well-established business practices. This succession of shocks made it necessary to adopt a new management planning process to keep companies healthy despite disruptions in any of their businesses or product lines. Strategic planning constitutes a managerial system that shifts the emphasis from what to achieve, objectives, to what to do, strategies. Strategic planning focuses on those objectives that are feasible and on which business or area to compete in line with the opportunities and threats of the environment. Today, strategic planning is defined as the process by which an organization defines its long-term vision and the strategies to achieve it, based on an analysis of its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. On the other hand, the strategic management process requires planning, a continuous decision-making process that decides in advance what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and who will do it. This strategic decision-making is the function and responsibility of managers at all levels of the organization, but the final responsibility rests with top management. It is top management that establishes the company's vision, mission, and philosophy. The vision results from a search process, an intuitive drive grounded in experience and accumulated information. The mission defines the firm's reason for being, shaping its present and future activities, providing unity, direction, and guidance for strategic decision-making. It provides clarity when defining which market we are in, who our customers are, and whom we compete against. Without a clear mission, strategic management is impossible. The philosophy defines the organization's system of values and beliefs. It consists of principles based on knowing who we are and what we believe, our ideas and values, our precepts, and our commitments and responsibilities to our internal and external audiences. The company's philosophy sets the framework for relationships between the firm and its shareholders, employees, customers, suppliers, government, and society at large. Control is an element of the management process that includes all activities undertaken to ensure that actual operations match planned operations. All managers in an organization are obligated to exercise control. For example, they must evaluate results and take the necessary actions to minimize inefficiencies. Thus, control is a key element of management. Planning and control are closely related. Planning sets objectives and the plans to achieve them. Control verifies that execution is correct. Control is the administrative function through which performance is evaluated. For Robbins, control can be defined as the process of regulating activities to ensure they are being accomplished as planned and correcting any significant deviations. Stoner defines it as the process that ensures actual activities conform to planned activities. Fayol, cited by Mellenkopf, says control consists of verifying whether everything occurs in conformity with the adopted plan, the orders given, and the principles laid down. Its object is to point out weaknesses and errors in order to rectify them and prevent their recurrence. From these definitions, control has several essential elements: a process of supervising the activities performed, standards or established benchmarks to identify possible deviations in results, the ability to correct errors or deviations in results or activities, planning subsequent activities and objectives after making the necessary corrections. Thus, we can define control as the function that enables supervision and comparison of results obtained against those originally expected, ensuring that directed action is carried out according to the organization's plans and within the limits of its structure. The importance of this administrative activity lies in the need for constant follow-up to see whether organizational objectives are being met. If objectives are not being met, control detects the failure, analyzes the causes, and proceeds to solutions. Strategy and tactics are used in many fields: military, economic, sports, commercial, etc. Many think they mean the same thing, but they do not. The two terms are related and complement each other. Both aim to ensure that the objectives and goals of a company, a work team, or a soccer team, among others, are largely achieved, delivering excellent results. Strategy is the set of planned, systematically coordinated actions carried out over time to achieve a specific end or mission. Tactics is the method or approach used to fulfill an objective and contribute to the overall purpose, according to the circumstances faced. Putting both together, we understand that strategy prepares the plans and elements to execute the intended actions, and tactics are part of the strategy, the set of measures and methods that put the strategy into practice. Using chess as an example, before playing, we prepare a game plan, strategy, and then we leverage strong piece positions to employ tactics such as maneuvers, combinations, double attacks, pins, discovered checks, pawn blocks, etc. Strategy is the general plan to achieve good results, and tactics are the specific methods applied according to circumstances to effectively carry out the strategic plan. In business terms, we can define strategy as the mobilization of all company resources at a global level to achieve long-term objectives. Tactics, meanwhile, are a specific scheme for employing resources within a general strategy. In the military sphere, troop mobilization is a tactic within a broader strategy. In management, the annual budget or annual investment plan are tactical plans within a longer-term global strategy. A war requires the application of one or more strategies. Each strategy requires several tactical decisions or measures. A company's 5-year plan requires adopting a strategy, together with the tactical plans of each year in that period. The 5-year plan requires a strategy linked to the tactical plans for each year. The basic differences between strategy and tactics are: strategy refers to the organization as a whole, seeking global organizational objectives, while tactics refer to one of its components, departments or units, seeking departmental objectives. Strategy addresses long-term objectives. Tactics address medium and short-term objectives. Implementing strategy requires many tactics executed in an orderly sequence over time. Strategy is composed of many simultaneous, integrated tactics. Strategy is defined by top management, while tactics are the responsibility of each department or unit's management. Both business strategy and the resulting tactics require planning. Planning is the basis of MBO, management by objectives. Moreover, MBO is grounded in the company's strategic planning and in the tactical plans of its various departments or units. The mission includes 2 decision keys: defining the business, where to compete, and developing the core competencies, the resources and capabilities needed to succeed. There are 2 well-defined types of information articulated in the business mission. First, the business objective should include a vision of today's and future competition in terms of products, coverage, customers, and geographic presence. Second, core competencies should include the intangible and tangible resources needed to reach the desired competitive position. The mission should signal the changes the business needs to make. If there are no changes in the mission, there is little chance of surviving in this dynamic world. Capturing the business vision. The first and most difficult task for any business is to capture the essence of its strategic position. In other words, developing the business vision. The three sides of the triangle help managers identify the business strategy. Industry structure. Understanding and negotiating with external forces. By analyzing the noise in industry structure, you capture the main external forces. Porter's 5 forces model helps managers understand an industry's strategies. The Delta model critiques and proposes modifications to the 5 forces. First, it questions rivalry and the winner-takes-all mentality. Second, it asks, which industry should managers analyze? Porter looks at the industry in which the firm is embedded. That industry is always relevant. However, using the Delta model, you don't only visualize your own industry, market. The model extends the analysis to the industries in which your customers are embedded, aligning with their needs to build loyalty. Competitive positioning, building activities to generate value. After analyzing the external forces in the industry and understanding environmental opportunities and threats, we need to define a strong competitive position that responds to the environment. Again, Porter's model is an important starting point. It allows us to identify the activities most important for achieving competitive advantage and to develop action programs to build the necessary capabilities. In the Delta model, under Total Customer Solutions, we seek the right value chain with suppliers and customers, enriching the relationship. In the lock-in system, we look beyond our closest industry, viewing it as a whole with all relevant complements. Microsoft did not look only at the operating system industry but also at the applications industry. The challenge is to create mechanisms where value chains form a perfect union. Capturability. Once again, the strategy is centered on cooperation and bonding. Customer lock-in/loyalty. The strategic agenda, specifying business tasks. The previous steps of the Delta model, selecting the preferred strategy, defining the business mission, analyzing industry structure, and establishing competitive positioning, provide strong support for developing a comprehensive strategic agenda. This must include directed action tasks that deliver the business's strategic objectives. The agenda should define each task clearly enough to communicate it across the organization. It should identify the necessary indicators and targets associated with each task to monitor the business. Notes. 1. The agenda is dynamic and subject to continuous revision. 2. It must be communicated throughout the organization. The adaptive process, aligning strategy with execution. The strategic agenda integrates all tasks required to set the business's directions, objectives. The adaptive process goes further. It dives into the details of execution within the organization. This ensures alignment between strategy and execution. Finally, the challenges in formulating strategic direction show that a well-formulated plan must meet 4 fundamental requirements, regardless of the methodology used. Logical, orderly, and simple formulation. A strategic plan must clearly explain how objectives will be achieved while being comprehensive, considering both stakeholders' interests and all critical organizational components. The plan must be measurable. That means having indicators tied to objectives, what is to be achieved. Actions, initiatives, programs, projects often called strategic. What will be done to achieve the plan's objectives? Resources, financial budgets required to execute the actions, cost of initiatives, programs, or projects. These 3 types of indicators allow us to measure the plan in terms of effectiveness, efficacy, and efficiency. Keep in mind that, given unstructured relationships among objectives, actions, resources, it's possible to be efficient and efficacious but not effective in execution. Likewise, one could be effective and efficacious but highly inefficient. The plan must be traceable, trackable. That means 2 essentials: a sufficiently explicit schedule for each action, initiative, program, or project, knowing when each starts and ends, enabling monitoring. Targets, values to be reached by a given time, for each indicator, enabling follow-up on achievement percentages as the plan is executed. The plan must be controllable. Beyond being measurable and trackable, it must allow us to act on problems or deviations detected during execution, taking corrective actions, decisions, to resolve them. Accordingly, the plan's documentation should include follow-up and control formats. Conclusion. In this class, we saw that knowledge and learning are not accessories, they are strategy. A learning organization integrates learning into values, metrics, and operations, turning ideas into measurable results. 3 ways to learn. Adaptive, learn from the past. Proactive, design the future. Inaction, solve real problems. Strategic execution, align objectives. Actions resources with indicators of effectiveness, efficacy, and efficiency. Strategy plus tactics, a general plan plus concrete methods, with follow-up and control. Organizations that learn continuously, align people, technology, and knowledge, and measure what matters are the ones that innovate with purpose, respond with agility, and sustain competitive advantages over time. To close, we suggest 2 steps. Identify a mental model in your team that needs updating. Design a micro-action this week, for example, a 30-minute retrospective with simple metrics, and measure 1 indicator before and after. See you in the next class.
San Diego Global Knowledge University, education beyond boundaries.